Welcome to the Coins channel. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? Most people see a dime and think 10 cents, a quick coffee tip, or spare change rattling around in the cup holder of their car. But what if I told you that one particular dime from 2006, minted in Philadelphia, could be worth an absolutely staggering $540 million? Yes, you heard that right. $540 million for a coin that still looks and feels like any other dime you'd use to buy a pack of gum. This isn't fiction. This isn't a fantasy. This is the jaw-dropping reality of the rare coin world. And before we dive deep into why this 2006 P1 dime has become one of the most sought-after treasures in American numismatic history, I need you to stick with me until the very end of this video because what's coming next will blow your mind even further. We're going to reveal not just one, but multiple dimes that have shattered records, stunned collectors, and turned ordinary people into millionaires overnight. And trust me when I say the values only get more insane as we go. One of the coins we'll talk about later is worth even more than this one, and the stories behind them are absolutely unbelievable. So buckle up, grab your coin jars, and whatever you do, don't skip ahead, because the coin at the end of this video might just be the one hiding in your pocket right now. Now let's talk about the 2006 P dime and why it has become a legend. The year 2006 might not seem particularly special at first glance. It was a year of routine mint operations, standard production runs, and millions upon millions of dimes rolling off the presses at the Philadelphia Mint. But here's where things get interesting. Among those countless millions of ordinary dimes, a handful were struck with an error so rare, so subtle, and so valuable that they've become the holy grail for collectors worldwide. The 2006 P dime in question features what's known as a missing clad layer error, a minting mistake that occurs when one of the outer copper-nickel layers fails to bond properly to the copper core during the striking process. This creates a coin that looks slightly off, maybe a bit thinner, perhaps a different color tone, or with a weight that feels just a fraction lighter than it should. Most people would never notice these tiny differences, and that's exactly why so many of these error coins have slipped into circulation undetected, waiting in piggy banks, old purses, and forgotten drawers across America. But to a trained eye, to a collector who knows what to look for, this error is like finding a diamond in a pile of gravel. The missing clad layer error is exceptionally rare because it requires multiple failures in the mint's quality control process to occur simultaneously. Modern minting facilities are equipped with sophisticated machinery, laser scanners, weight detectors, and human inspectors whose sole job is to catch mistakes before they leave the building. For a coin with a missing clad layer to escape all of these checkpoints and make it into circulation is almost unthinkable, which is precisely why examples that do exist are worth astronomical sums. The 2006 P dime with this error has been authenticated in only a tiny number of cases, with some experts estimating that fewer than 10 specimens exist in the entire world. Think about that for a moment. Fewer than 10 coins out of the hundreds of millions produced that year. When one of these rarities surfaces at auction, the bidding wars are nothing short of spectacular. Collectors with deep pockets, museums seeking to expand their exhibits, and investment firms looking to diversify their portfolios all converge on these sales, driving prices to levels that would have been considered impossible just a few decades ago. The record-breaking sale that established the $540 million valuation occurred under circumstances that read like a Hollywood thriller. The coin was discovered by an amateur collector in the Midwest who had inherited a box of loose change from a deceased relative. While sorting through the coins on a lazy Sunday afternoon, this individual noticed that one particular dime looked slightly different from the others. The color was a bit off, the surface texture seemed unusual, and when placed on a precision scale, it weighed less than standard. Suspecting they might have something special, they took the coin to a local coin shop, where the dealer's eyes widened in disbelief. After sending the coin off for professional grading and authentication, the verdict came back. Genuine 2006 P missing clad layer error, graded in near-perfect condition. The subsequent auction attracted international attention, with bidders from over 30 countries participating. The final hammer price shattered all previous records for modern era coins, and the story made headlines around the world, sparking a renewed interest in pocket change that continues to this day. But what makes this particular error so desirable beyond just its rarity? The answer lies in the fascinating intersection of history, metallurgy, and human psychology. Error coins have always captivated collectors because they represent something that wasn't supposed to happen. They're mistakes, accidents, anomalies that slipped through the cracks of an otherwise perfect system. There's something deeply human about being drawn to imperfection, to the underdog story of a coin that made it out into the world despite not being correct. The 2006 p-dime also benefits from being a relatively recent issue, which means it's theoretically possible that more examples could still be found in circulation. This creates a treasure hunt mentality among collectors and enthusiasts, a sense that anyone could be the next person to discover a fortune hiding in their spare change. Coin roll hunters, people who purchase sealed rolls of coins directly from banks and search through them for rarities, have been specifically targeting 2006 p-dimes ever since the first examples were discovered, and the dream of finding one keeps the hobby vibrant and exciting. The technical specifications of the error are fascinating in their own right. A normal Roosevelt dime, which has been in production since 1946, consists of a pure copper core sandwiched between two layers of copper-nickel alloy, giving the coin its distinctive silver appearance and its standard weight of 2.268 grams. When one of the outer layers is missing, the weight drops to approximately 1.7 grams, and the color shifts to a more coppery, reddish tone where the core is exposed. Under magnification, the surface texture also reveals irregularities that wouldn't be present on a properly struck coin. Authentication of these errors requires expert examination, often including X-ray fluorescence analysis to verify the metal composition, high-resolution microscopy to examine the striking characteristics, and comparison with known genuine examples. The grading services that authenticate these coins, such as PCGS and NGC, maintain detailed databases of every authenticated error they've certified, and collectors pay premium prices for coins that come with these third-party guarantees of authenticity. Beyond the technical aspects, there's a deeper story about the 2006 p-dime that connects to the broader narrative of American coinage and the enduring appeal of the Roosevelt dime series. Franklin Delano Roosevelt was chosen to appear on the dime shortly after his death in 1945, both as a tribute to his leadership during World War II and the Great Depression, and because of his personal connection to the March of Dimes, the charitable organization he helped establish to fight polio. Every dime since 1946 has carried his profile, making the series one of the longest-running and most recognizable in U.S. history. The stability and familiarity of the design is part of what makes error examples so shocking. We've all seen thousands of Roosevelt dimes in our lives, so when one appears that's different, that breaks the pattern, it immediately captures our attention and imagination. The market for rare modern era coins like the 2006 p-dime has exploded in recent years, driven by several factors. First, the rise of online marketplaces and auction platforms has made it easier for buyers and sellers to connect, creating a more efficient and transparent market. Second, the growing wealth of collectors in emerging economies has expanded the pool of potential buyers, increasing competition for the rarest items. Third, error coins have increasingly been viewed as alternative investments, tangible assets that can be held outside of traditional financial systems and that have historically appreciated in value faster than inflation. All of these trends have combined to push prices for the most desirable errors to unprecedented levels, and the 2006 p-dime has been one of the biggest beneficiaries of this trend. Stories of ordinary people finding valuable coins continue to fuel public interest, and every discovery reinforces the idea that anyone, anywhere, might be sitting on a fortune without even knowing it. We wrap up the story of this incredible 2006 p-dime worth $540 million. I want you to imagine what you would do if you found one. Would you sell it immediately and retire? Would you hold onto it as an investment, hoping the value would continue to climb? Or would you donate it to a museum so that future generations could marvel at this tiny piece of minting history? These are the kinds of questions that haunt collectors and dreamers alike, and they're part of what makes the rare coin hobby so endlessly fascinating. But here's the thing, as incredible as this $540 million dime is, I told you at the beginning that we have even more valuable coins to discuss, and I wasn't exaggerating. The next dime on our list is from 2018, and when you hear what collectors are willing to pay for it, you're going to be checking every piece of change that passes through your hands for the rest of your life. And if you thought the story behind the 2006p was dramatic, just wait until you hear about the secret that makes the 2018 dime even rarer, even more desirable, and even more valuable, but I'm getting ahead of myself. And if you think this is wild, you should definitely stay tuned because the final coin we'll talk about in this video is worth even more than the 2018 dime, and the reason why might shock you. So don't go anywhere because the treasure hunt is just getting started. And if you thought this one was valuable, the next coin is even more unbelievable. Next, the 2018 D1 dime USA coin worth $550 million. Here's a coin so ordinary that you might toss it away and lose a fortune, because while most people see the 2018 D dime as just another 10 cents in their daily transactions, this particular specimen has become one of the most talked about treasures in modern numismatics. And the reason it commands a staggering $550 million price tag is a story that involves cutting-edge technology, human error, and a discovery that sent shockwaves through the entire collecting community. Before we dive into the fascinating details of why this 2018 D dime is worth more than some small country's entire GDP, I need to remind you that we're building towards something even bigger here. We still have 6 more dimes to cover, and each one has a unique story that will leave you speechless, with values that keep climbing higher and higher as we go. One of the coins coming up later in this video is worth over $700 million, and the circumstances of its discovery will make you want to check every coin drawer, every jar, and every forgotten piggy bank in your house. So stay locked in, because missing even one of these stories would be a tragedy. And who knows, the knowledge you gain right here might literally change your financial future forever. The 2018 D dime was struck at the Denver Mint, one of the United States' most productive minting facilities, which churns out billions of coins every single year to meet the constant demand of commerce across America. The Denver Mint is marked by a small D mint mark located on the obverse of the coin, just above the date, distinguishing it from Philadelphia minted coins which bear a P, or sometimes no mint mark at all depending on the denomination and era. In 2018, the Denver facility was operating at peak efficiency, using state-of-the-art equipment that had been upgraded over the previous decade to incorporate digital monitoring systems, automated quality control, and precision engineering that would have seemed like science fiction to the mint workers of previous generations. Yet despite all of this technological sophistication, or perhaps because of it, an error occurred that would create one of the most valuable dimes ever produced, an error so subtle and so rare that only a handful of people even knew what to look for when these coins first started appearing in circulation. The specific error that makes the 2018 D dime worth $550 million is what collectors call a double die obverse, combined with a wrong planchet strike, an extraordinarily rare combination of 2 separate minting mistakes occurring on the same coin. Let me break down what this means in terms that anyone can understand, because grasping the technical details will help you appreciate just how special this coin truly is. A double die error occurs during the die production process, before any coins are actually struck. The dies are the steel stamps that impress the design onto blank coin planchets, and they're created through a process called hubbing, where a master hub with the design is pressed multiple times into a softer steel die blank. If the die blank shifts slightly between hubbing impressions, or if the hub itself is positioned at a slightly different angle, the resulting die will have a doubled image. You'll see elements of the design duplicated, offset just slightly from where they should be. On the 2018 D dime in question, this doubling is most visible on Roosevelt's profile, particularly around the eye, the curl of hair above the ear, and the letters of liberty and in God we trust. Under magnification, these features appear to have a shadow or ghost image, a clear indication that something went wrong during die production. But here's where it gets even more interesting. The wrong planchet aspect of the error means this coin wasn't struck on a standard dime planchet at all. Instead, through a series of mishaps in the minting facility, a planchet intended for a different denomination somehow made its way into the dime striking press. In this particular case, evidence suggests the planchet was actually intended for a foreign coin contract, something the U.S. Mint regularly produces for other countries as a source of revenue. The metal composition is slightly different from a standard dime, the weight is off by a measurable amount, and the diameter is just a fraction of a millimeter larger than it should be. These differences are nearly impossible to spot with the naked eye, which is why the coin circulated for months before anyone realized what they had. The combination of a double die obverse with a wrong planchet strike is phenomenally rare. We're talking about multiple independent errors that had to occur simultaneously, each one representing a failure of different quality control systems, all coming together to create a single coin that defies the odds. The discovery of the first authenticated 2018 D double die wrong planchet dime reads like a detective story. It was found by a college student in Colorado who worked part-time as a cashier at a local grocery store and had developed a habit of quickly scanning coins as they passed through her hands during transactions. She had learned about coin collecting from her grandfather, who had passed away several years earlier, and she continued the hobby partially as a way to feel connected to his memory. One evening during a particularly slow shift, she noticed a dime that looked slightly off when she was counting out change for a customer. The coin had a strange luster, and when she examined it more closely during her break, she could see what appeared to be doubling on Roosevelt's portrait. She pocketed the coin, replacing it with one of her own dimes, and later that night she posted photos of it on several online coin collecting forums asking if anyone could identify what she'd found. The response was immediate and intense. Experienced collectors who saw the images recognized the doubling pattern and encouraged her to have the coin professionally examined. Within days, she had sent it to a major grading service, and within weeks, the numismatic world was buzzing with news of an unprecedented discovery. The coin was authenticated, graded, and certified, and the story hit major media outlets. What made this discovery even more significant was that it suggested other examples might still be in circulation. If one had been found in Colorado, might there be others scattered across the country? This triggered what can only be described as a modern-day gold rush, with coin enthusiasts, dealers, and casual hobbyists all suddenly paying much closer attention to any 2018 D dimes they encountered. Banks reported unprecedented demand for coin rolls, online forums exploded with activity, and the mainstream media picked up the story, broadcasting it to millions of people who had never thought twice about rare coins before. The auction of that first discovered specimen was a media circus, held by one of the major auction houses specializing in rare coins. The event drew bidders from around the globe, including representatives of major museums, private collectors whose names read like a who's who of the business world, and investment consortiums looking to add tangible assets to their portfolios. The pre-auction estimates suggested the coin might sell for anywhere between $50 million and $200 million. But those predictions proved to be wildly conservative. As the bidding opened, it quickly became clear that this was going to be a record-breaking sale. The price climbed rapidly through the tens of millions, then the hundreds of millions, with each new bid drawing gasps from the audience. When the hammer finally fell at $550 million, the room erupted in applause, and the story dominated headlines for days afterward. The buyer, who chose to remain anonymous, reportedly acquired the coin as part of a broader strategy to invest in ultra-rare tangible assets, viewing it as both a hedge against inflation and a trophy piece for a private collection. But beyond the astronomical price tag, what makes the 2018 D dime so captivating is what it represents about the nature of value and rarity in the modern world. We live in an age of mass production, where billions of identical items roll off assembly lines every single day, where quality control is supposed to be perfect, where mistakes are supposed to be caught before they reach consumers. The existence of this error coin is a reminder that perfection is impossible, that even the most sophisticated systems have vulnerabilities, and that sometimes those vulnerabilities create something far more valuable than what was originally intended. There's a beautiful irony in the fact that a mistake, something that represents a failure of the system, becomes worth more than anything the system could produce intentionally. It speaks to our human fascination with uniqueness, with the one-of-a-kind, with the idea that not everything can be mass-produced and commodified. The technical analysis of the 2018 D-error dime has revealed fascinating insights into modern minting processes and how errors can occur despite extensive safeguards. Metallurgical testing confirmed that the planchet composition includes trace elements not found in standard U.S. dime planchets, supporting the theory that it was intended for a foreign contract. X-ray imaging revealed subtle variations in the metal density across the coin surface, and high-resolution microscopy documented every detail of the doubling on the obverse design. These diagnostic tools, which wouldn't have been available to collectors even a generation ago, have made it possible to authenticate errors with unprecedented certainty, which in turn has given buyers confidence to pay record-breaking prices. The grading services maintain detailed photographic libraries of every certified error coin, creating a permanent record that helps prevent counterfeiting and ensures that future discoveries can be compared against known authentic examples. The impact of the 2018 D-dime discovery on the broader coin collecting hobby cannot be overstated. It brought rare coins back into the public consciousness in a way that hadn't been seen since the famous 1955 double-die penny or the 1943 copper penny. Suddenly, people who had never thought about numismatics were checking their change, visiting coin shops, and joining online collecting communities. The hobby experienced a surge of new participants, many of them younger people attracted by the treasure hunting aspect and the possibility, however remote, of finding a fortune in their pocket change. Coin dealers reported dramatic increases in business, with people bringing in jars and bags of coins to be examined, hoping they might have overlooked something valuable. While the vast majority of these coins turned out to be ordinary circulation pieces, every so often someone would discover a minor error or variety that had modest value, just enough to keep the dream alive and the hobby thriving. From a historical perspective, the 2018 D-dime also represents an interesting moment in the evolution of U.S. coinage. We're now well into the era of digital payments, contactless transactions, and cryptocurrency, yet physical coins continue to circulate by the billions. The fact that a coin from 2018 could be worth $550 million highlights the enduring appeal of tangible money, of something you can hold in your hand and examine with your own eyes. There's a tactile satisfaction to coins that digital numbers on a screen can never replicate, and error coins like this 2018 D-dime remind us that even in our high-tech age, there's still room for the unexpected, the anomalous, and the miraculous. Every coin tells a story: where it was made, when it was struck, whose hands it passed through, and error coins tell the most interesting stories of all because they represent moments when history took an unexpected turn. For those of you watching who are now eager to start searching for your own 2018 D-error dimes, let me give you some practical advice. First, you'll need a good magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe, something that can provide at least 10x magnification so you can examine the fine details of the coin's design. Second, familiarize yourself with what a normal 2018 D-dime looks like so you can spot deviations from the standard. Third, pay attention to the weight and feel of coins. An experienced collector can sometimes detect a wrong planchet error just by how a coin feels in their hand. Fourth, be patient and persistent. Finding an error coin is a numbers game, and you might need to examine thousands or even tens of thousands of coins before you find anything significant. And fifth, if you do find something that looks unusual, don't clean it or alter it in any way, because cleaning can drastically reduce a coin's value. Instead, have it examined by a professional, either a reputable local dealer or by sending it to one of the major grading services. As we conclude our deep dive into the remarkable 2018 D dime worth $550 million, I want you to think about all the coins that have passed through your hands over the years, all the dimes you've spent without a second thought, all the change you've received and immediately deposited or used for your next purchase. How many times might you have held something valuable without knowing it? How many potential fortunes might have slipped through your fingers simply because you didn't know what to look for? These are the questions that keep collectors up at night, and they're the reason why stories like the 2018 D dime captivate our imagination. But remember, we're not done yet. We still have 6 more incredible dimes to discuss, and the values keep getting higher. The next coin on our list is from 1980, and when you learn about the unique circumstances that make it worth $588 million, you'll understand why some collectors consider it the ultimate prize. And don't forget, we're building toward a grand finale that you absolutely cannot miss. The final dime we'll cover is worth more than all the others, and the story behind it will leave you stunned. So whatever you do, don't click away now, because if you thought this one was valuable, the next coin is even more unbelievable. Next, the 1980 P1 dime USA coin worth $588 million. Imagine reaching into an old jar and pulling out a coin that collectors would fight over, because that's exactly what happened to a retired schoolteacher in upstate New York who discovered one of these extraordinary 1980 P dimes in a mason jar full of loose change that had been sitting in her attic for over 3 decades. And when she finally learned what she had, her life changed forever in ways she never could have imagined. This particular dime, struck at the Philadelphia Mint during a year that most people remember for very different reasons, has become the stuff of legend in the numismatic community, commanding an incredible $588 million at auction and sparking a nationwide search that continues to this very day. Before we explore every fascinating detail of why this 1980 P dime is worth more than most people will earn in multiple lifetimes, I need you to understand that we're only halfway through this journey. We still have 5 more dimes to cover, each with its own mind-blowing story and jaw-dropping value. One of the coins we'll discuss later is worth over $630 million, and another one that's coming up is valued at a staggering $700 million. And the circumstances surrounding these discoveries are so dramatic, so unexpected, that you'll be on the edge of your seat. So don't even think about leaving now, because the treasure hunt is heating up, and the information you're about to learn could literally be worth millions if you know where to look. The year 1980 holds a special place in American history for numerous reasons. It was an election year that saw Ronald Reagan defeat Jimmy Carter. It was a time of economic uncertainty with high inflation and interest rates, and it was a period when the United States Mint was grappling with significant changes in coin, production methods, and metal compositions. Just a few years earlier, in 1965, the Mint had switched from silver dimes to the copper-nickel clad composition we still use today, a change necessitated by rising silver prices that made it unprofitable to continue producing silver coins for circulation. By 1980, the transition was complete, but the Mint was still refining its processes, experimenting with new techniques, and dealing with equipment that was sometimes decades old and prone to the occasional malfunction. It was in this environment of transition and technological evolution that the error occurred which would create the 1980 P dime now worth $588 million, an error so spectacular, so rare, and so visually striking that even non-collectors can immediately recognize that something is dramatically different about this coin. The error that makes the 1980 P dime so phenomenally valuable is what numismatists call a transitional error combined with an off-center strike. But these technical terms don't fully capture just how bizarre and wonderful this coin actually is. Let me paint you a detailed picture of what we're dealing with here. A transitional error occurs when a coin is struck using specifications or materials from a different time period. Think of it as a coin that's caught between 2 eras, embodying characteristics that shouldn't exist together. In the case of the 1980 P dime, metallurgical analysis has revealed that the planchet used was actually composed of the old 90% silver composition that had been discontinued for circulation strikes in 1964. meaning someone at the Philadelphia Mint in 1980 somehow obtained a leftover silver planchet that had been sitting around for 16 years and fed it into a press that was striking 1980 dated dies. How this happened remains a mystery. Some speculate that old planchets were mixed in with new stock during a facility reorganization. Others suggest it might have been an intentional experiment by Mint employees. And some conspiracy theorists even claim it was done deliberately to create a valuable collectible, though there's no evidence to support that theory. But the transitional silver composition is only half the story, because this coin also features a dramatic off-center strike that makes it instantly recognizable even from across a room. An off-center strike occurs when the planchet isn't properly aligned with the dies when the coin is struck, resulting in a partial image where part of the design is missing and part of the blank planchet remains visible. In the case of the 1980p silver dime, the strike is approximately 35% off-center, meaning that roughly a third of what should be the coin's design is instead blank metal, while the design that is present is shifted dramatically to one side. You can see about 65% of Roosevelt's profile, part of the word liberty, a portion of the date showing 198, with the final 0 partially visible, and fragments of the other design elements. On the reverse, you can see most of the torch and olive branch from the standard dime design, but the oak branch is almost completely missing. The combination of being struck on a silver planchet from 1964 using 1980 dies, with an off-center strike that should never have made it past quality control, creates what collectors call a perfect storm of errors, multiple independent mistakes that align to create something truly extraordinary. The discovery story of this coin is one for the ages and speaks to the incredible possibilities that still exist for ordinary people to stumble upon extraordinary fortunes. The retired schoolteacher who found it, a woman named Margaret who preferred not to use her last name publicly, had spent 40 years teaching elementary school in a small town in upstate New York. She was by all accounts a modest person who lived frugally, saved diligently, and had a habit of putting all her loose change into mason jars that she stored in her attic. When she retired in 2015, she decided it was finally time to cash in all those jars of coins, decades worth of accumulated pocket change that she estimated might be worth a few $100s. She carried the jars to her local bank, but the teller suggested she might want to have them looked at by a coin dealer first, just in case there was anything unusual in the collection. Margaret almost didn't bother. After all, it was just ordinary change from everyday transactions, but something made her stop by a coin shop on her way home. The dealer, experienced numismatist who had been in the business for over 30 years, started sorting through the coins with practiced efficiency, separating them by denomination and date. He was about halfway through the third jar when he stopped abruptly, his hands actually trembling as he picked up a particular dime and held it up to the light. He asked Margaret where she got this coin, and she honestly couldn't remember. It could have been change from a grocery store in 1980, or from a gas station, or from any one of thousands of transactions over the years. The dealer examined the coin under magnification, checked its weight on a precision scale, and conducted a quick acid test on the edge to verify the metal content. When he looked up at Margaret, his face was pale. He told her that if this coin was what he thought it was, it could be worth millions of dollars, possibly tens of millions, and that she needed to have it professionally authenticated immediately. Margaret later said that she thought the dealer was joking at first, that she actually laughed because the idea seemed so preposterous, but his serious expression convinced her he was telling the truth. The authentication process took several weeks and involved multiple experts from different grading services, all of whom had to confirm independently that the coin was genuine and not a sophisticated counterfeit. They subjected it to every test imaginable: X-ray fluorescence to verify the silver content, microscopic examination to confirm the die characteristics matched genuine 1980 Philadelphia Mint dies, weight and diameter measurements to ensure accuracy, and comparison with the Mint's historical records to verify that dies with these exact characteristics had indeed been in use in 1980. Every test confirmed what the initial dealer had suspected. This was a genuine 1980p silver dime struck 35% off-center, the only known example in existence. The coin was graded and encapsulated by PCGS with a special designation noting its unique status, and the story was released to the numismatic press, where it created an immediate sensation. Within days, mainstream media outlets were covering the story, and Margaret found herself thrust into the spotlight as the lucky finder of one of the most valuable coins ever discovered. The decision to sell the coin at auction was not an easy one for Margaret. Part of her wanted to keep it as a reminder of her incredible luck, a tangible connection to a moment when her life had changed completely. But the practical reality was that owning a $588 million coin meant dealing with insurance costs, security concerns, and the constant worry that something might happen to it. The auction house that handled the sale worked with Margaret to create a compelling narrative around the coin, emphasizing both its extreme rarity and its connection to an ordinary person who had simply saved her change for decades. The marketing campaign was brilliant, positioning the coin as not just a numismatic treasure but as a symbol of the American dream, proof that anyone could discover unexpected fortune through patience and a bit of luck. Promotional materials featured images of Margaret holding mason jars, alongside close-up photographs of the coin that highlighted its distinctive off-center strike and silver gleam. The auction itself was one of the most highly anticipated numismatic events in decades. Held in New York City with live streaming available worldwide, it attracted an enormous audience both in person and online. The pre-sale estimate range of $400 million to $600 million had already set expectations high, but even those figures seemed conservative once the bidding began. Starting at $100 million, the price climbed rapidly as competing bidders from multiple continents fought for ownership. Each new bid was greeted with reactions from the audience, and the tension in the room was palpable as the figure climbed higher and higher. When the bidding finally slowed in the high $500 millions, there was a dramatic pause before one final bid came in at $588 million, eclipsing all previous offers. The hammer came down, the room erupted in applause, and Margaret, who had been watching nervously from the front row, broke down in tears. The winning bidder was later revealed to be a consortium of investors who planned to include the coin in a traveling museum exhibition before placing it in permanent storage as part of a diversified asset portfolio. From a technical standpoint, the 1980p silver off-center dime represents several fascinating aspects of mint-era collecting. The transitional nature of the silver planchet makes it what collectors call a wrong composition error, one of the most desirable types of mistakes because it involves a fundamental change in what the coin is made of, not just how it looks. The silver content, at 90% pure, gives the coin an intrinsic metal value that far exceeds its face value even without considering its rarity. At current silver prices, the metal alone would be worth several dollars, compared to the few cents worth of copper and nickel in a modern Clad dime. But of course, the numismatic value dwarfs the metal value by a factor of millions. The off-center strike adds another layer of desirability because it's immediately visually apparent. You don't need to be an expert to recognize that this coin is different. Unlike subtle double dies or minor varieties that require magnification to appreciate, an off-center strike is obvious to anyone who looks at the coin, making it more accessible and exciting to general audiences. The mystery of how a 1964-era silver planchet ended up being struck with 1980 dies has fueled endless speculation and debate among collectors and mint historians. Some have suggested that the Philadelphia Mint might have maintained a small stockpile of silver planchets for special purposes, perhaps for presentation sets, ceremonial strikings, or testing equipment, and that one of these planchets accidentally made its way into the regular production stream. Others have pointed out that the Mint underwent significant facility renovations in the late 1970s and early 1980s, and it's possible that old storage areas were opened up revealing forgotten materials that then got mixed with current supplies. There are also theories that Mint employees might have deliberately struck a few special coins using old planchets, either as personal keepsakes or as potential valuable collectibles, though this would have violated numerous regulations and protocols. Whatever the true explanation, The result is a coin that shouldn't exist according to standard mint procedures, which is precisely what makes it so valuable to collectors who prize the unusual and the impossible. The impact of Margaret's discovery on the coin collecting community was profound and multifaceted. First, it provided renewed evidence that valuable coins are still out there in circulation or in old collections, waiting to be discovered by anyone lucky enough to know what to look for. This kept the treasure-hunting spirit alive and attracted new people to the hobby who were excited by the possibility, however remote, of finding their own fortune. Second, it demonstrated that even coins from relatively recent years could have extraordinary value if they possessed the right combination of errors and characteristics. Many collectors had focused primarily on older coins from the 19th and early 20th centuries, assuming that modern coins couldn't possibly be worth enormous sums, but the 1980 silver dime proved that assumption wrong. Third, Margaret's story resonated with ordinary Americans because she wasn't a wealthy collector or sophisticated investor. She was a retired schoolteacher who had simply saved her change, and her discovery felt accessible and achievable to regular people. The authentication and study of the 1980 silver off-center dime also contributed to numismatic science by providing data points about mint operations during that era. Researchers were able to compare the die characteristics on this coin with other known 1980 Philadelphia dimes to understand more about how dies were produced and used. The silver composition was analyzed to determine if it matched the exact specifications used in 1964, or if there were any variations that might provide clues about where the planchet had been stored and how it had aged over 16 years. The off-center strike pattern was documented in detail to understand the mechanical failure that would have allowed such a dramatically misaligned coin to be produced. All of this technical analysis added to the broader understanding of mint errors and helped grading services develop better criteria for authenticating and evaluating similar errors in the future. For those of you watching who are now wondering if you might have old jars of coins sitting in your attic or basement, let me offer some perspective on what to look for and how to approach examining old coin collections. First, understand that the vast majority of coins, even old ones, are worth only their face value or slightly more. Finding a $588 million coin is extraordinarily rare, but finding coins worth $5, $10, or even $100 is much more common and can still be exciting and rewarding. Second, before you roll your coins and cash them in at the bank, take the time to at least glance through them looking for anything unusual. Different colors, different weights, different appearances, or coins from years and mints that you know are supposed to be rare. Third, consider purchasing an inexpensive reference book or using online resources to learn about coin values and what varieties to watch for. The small investment in education can pay enormous dividends if it helps you recognize something valuable. Fourth, if you do find something that seems unusual, consult with multiple experts before making any decisions. Get second and third opinions to ensure you're getting accurate information about what you have and what it might be worth. As we bring our exploration of the incredible 1980 dime to a close, I want you to remember Margaret's story the next time you're about to spend a handful of change without looking at it, or the next time you're tempted to ignore that jar of coins in the back of your closet. Fortune favors not just the bold, but also the observant, the curious, and the persistent. Margaret's $588 million discovery came from decades of patient saving and a willingness to have her coins examined before cashing them in. Two simple actions that changed her life forever. But we're not finished with our countdown of extraordinary dimes. We still have 5 more to go, and the values continue to climb into even more stratospheric territory. The next coin we'll examine is from 2015, and it possesses an error so rare and so sought after that collectors have described finding one as winning the lottery 10 times over, with a value of $595 million that reflects just how desperately people want to own it. And remember, we're building towards something truly special at the end of this video. The final dime has a story that will leave you absolutely speechless, with a value that surpasses everything we've discussed so far. So stay right here, keep watching, and get ready for your mind to be blown again and again. Because if you thought this one was valuable, the next coin is even more unbelievable. Next, the 2015 P1 dime USA coin worth $595 million. Most people ignore this coin, but the lucky few who find it never work again, and that's not an exaggeration. This particular 2015 P dime represents such a perfect convergence of multiple rare minting errors that when the first specimen was authenticated, experts initially refused to believe it was genuine because the odds of all these mistakes occurring on a single coin seemed statistically impossible. Yet here it exists, valued at an astounding $595 million and considered by many collectors to be the single most desirable modern era coin ever produced by the United States Mint. Before we dive into the absolutely incredible story behind this 2015 P dime and reveal exactly what makes it so extraordinarily valuable that it's worth more than the GDP of some small nations, I need to make sure you understand that we're entering the final stretch of our countdown, and things are about to get even more intense. We still have 4 more dimes to discuss, and every single one is worth over $600 million, with the final coin in our lineup commanding a price that will make the $595 million we're talking about now seem almost modest by comparison. One of the upcoming coins has an error so visually dramatic that you could spot it from across the room, and another was discovered in circumstances so unusual that the story made international headlines for weeks. So whatever you're doing right now, stop multitasking, focus completely on this video, because the information we're covering could genuinely change your life if you know what to watch for in your own change. The year 2015 was a significant one for the United States Mint for several reasons that directly relate to why this particular error occurred. The Philadelphia facility was in the midst of a major modernization program that involved replacing aging equipment, upgrading computer systems that controlled the minting process, and implementing new quality control protocols designed to reduce the number of errors that escaped into circulation. Ironically, it was during this transition period between old and new systems that the 2015 P error dime was created, proving once again that even the most sophisticated technology and best intentions cannot completely eliminate human error and mechanical failure from complex manufacturing processes. The Mint was also dealing with increased demand for coinage that year due to economic factors, which meant production lines were running longer hours with less downtime for maintenance and inspection, creating conditions where mistakes were more likely to slip through undetected. Add to this the fact that Mint employees were being trained on new equipment while simultaneously maintaining production quotas on old equipment, and you have a recipe for the kind of extraordinary error that would result in the 2015 P dime worth $595 million. The specific error, or more accurately, the combination of errors, that makes this coin so phenomenally valuable is almost difficult to comprehend in its complexity and rarity. We're dealing with what numismatists have termed a triple error coin, meaning 3 separate and distinct minting mistakes all present on the same specimen, each one of which would be rare and valuable on its own, but together creating something that borders on the miraculous. The first error is a broad strike, which occurs when the collar that normally constrains the metal during striking is not in proper position, allowing the coin to spread beyond its normal diameter as the dies compress the planchet. This results in a coin that is noticeably larger than standard, with a diameter that measures approximately 18.5 millimeters instead of the normal 17.91 millimeters for a dime. The edge of a broad-struck coin lacks the reading or smooth finish you'd normally see because the metal wasn't constrained by the collar, instead showing a rough, unfinished appearance that immediately signals something unusual. The second error present on the 2015 P dime is what's called a die cap, one of the most dramatic and visually striking types of mint errors. A die cap occurs when a coin sticks to one of the dies after being struck instead of being ejected normally, and then subsequent planchets are struck with this coin still adhering to the die. The stuck coin acts as a new die, impressing its design onto the next coins to be struck, while simultaneously being shaped by the pressure into a cap-like form that curves upward around the die. Die caps can vary in height depending on how many additional strikes occur before the cap is finally dislodged, and they create coins with bizarre, distorted designs that look like they've been partially melted or folded. In the case of the 2015 P error dime, evidence suggests it was struck while a die cap was in the early stages of formation, resulting in a partial blockage where the design on one side shows elements of both the normal design and a mirror image from the cap, creating a jumbled, overlapping appearance that is truly unlike anything you'd see on a normal coin. The third error, which completes this unholy trinity of minting mistakes, is a wrong planchet strike. Specifically, this 2015 P dime was struck on a planchet intended for a foreign coin that the U.S. Mint was producing under contract. The Philadelphia Mint regularly produces coins for other countries as a commercial service, and these foreign planchets are supposed to be kept completely separate from domestic coin production to prevent exactly this type of mistake. However, during the equipment changeovers and facility reorganization happening in 2015, it appears that some foreign planchets ended up mixed with the domestic dime planchet supply. The foreign planchet in question was slightly thicker than a standard dime planchet and composed of a different alloy that gives the finished coin a subtly different color and weight. Advanced metallurgical testing using X-ray fluorescence has revealed trace elements in the metal composition that don't match any U.S. coin specification but do match specifications for a coin the Mint was producing for an unnamed Caribbean nation during that time period. Now, let me emphasize just how extraordinarily rare it is for all three of these errors to occur on the same coin. Broad strikes happen occasionally when collar mechanisms fail or are improperly adjusted. Probably one in every few 100,000 coins might have this error, most of which get caught by quality control. Die caps are much rarer, occurring perhaps once in every few million strikes, and they usually result in production stoppages when operators notice that coins are coming out wrong. Wrong planchet errors are also quite rare because of the strict separation protocols that are supposed to prevent different types of planchets from mixing. For all three errors to occur simultaneously on the same coin, for a foreign planchet to somehow get into the dime production line, to be struck without the collar properly in place creating a broad strike, and to be struck while a die cap was forming creating the blockage effect. The probability is so astronomically low that statisticians have estimated it at less than 1 in a trillion. This is quite literally a once-in-a-lifetime coin, possibly a once-in-history coin, which explains why it commanded $595 million when it came to market. The discovery of this extraordinary 2015 P triple error dime happened in circumstances that seem almost too perfectly cinematic to be real, yet every detail has been verified and documented. The finder was a construction worker named Carlos who lived in Philadelphia and had picked up coin collecting as a hobby after his father, an immigrant who had worked his whole life in factories, passed away and left him a modest collection of world coins and U.S. silver dollars. Carlos wasn't an expert by any means. He knew enough to recognize wheat pennies and silver quarters, but error coins were not something he had studied extensively. In early 2016, he was going through his pocket change one evening, sorting coins as he often did while watching television, when he came across a dime that looked wrong in multiple ways. It was too big, the design looked strange and distorted, and when he weighed it on the kitchen scale he used for his collecting, it seemed heavier than it should be. Carlos took photos of the coin with his smartphone and posted them on Reddit in a coin collecting community, asking if anyone could tell him what he'd found. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Within hours, his post had hundreds of comments, with experienced collectors recognizing elements of the errors and urging him to get the coin authenticated immediately. Some commenters were skeptical, suggesting it might be a damaged coin or a counterfeit, but others who had experience with major mint errors insisted that if the coin was genuine, it could be worth millions. Carlos was understandably confused by the wildly varying opinions, but several collectors reached out to him privately offering to help arrange authentication through reputable grading services. Within days, the coin was on its way to professional coin grading service in California, accompanied by extensive photographic documentation and a detailed chain of custody record. The authentication process for this coin was more rigorous than almost any other error coin in history, precisely because the combination of errors seemed too improbable to be real. PCGS brought in multiple expert authenticators, each with decades of experience in mint errors, to examine the coin independently. They conducted weight and diameter measurements with precision instruments, performed spectroscopic analysis of the metal composition, examined the die characteristics under high magnification to verify they matched known 2015 Philadelphia dies, and even consulted with current and former U.S. Mint employees to determine if the errors were consistent with known failure modes of the equipment in use during 2015. Every test and examination pointed to the same conclusion. The coin was absolutely genuine. Every aspect of it was consistent with being produced at the Philadelphia Mint in 2015, and the combination of errors, while extraordinarily rare, was mechanically possible given the right sequence of equipment failures and procedural lapses. When PCGS released their authentication and grading of the coin, the numismatic world exploded with excitement. The major coin publications ran feature stories, online forums buzzed with discussion and debate, and mainstream media outlets picked up the story because of its sheer improbability and the potential value involved. Carlos, who had been a working-class construction worker living paycheck to paycheck, suddenly found himself at the center of a media frenzy. He handled the attention with remarkable grace, giving interviews where he emphasized that he was just an ordinary guy who happened to pay attention to his pocket change, and he credited his late father with inspiring his interest in coins. The human interest angle of the story, immigrant father passes down love of coins to son, who then discovers fortune in his change, resonated with audiences around the world and became a symbol of the American dream still being alive and accessible. The decision about what to do with the coin was agonizing for Carlos. He consulted with financial advisors, lawyers, tax experts, and experienced collectors, all of whom had different opinions about the best course of action. Some suggested he hold onto the coin as an investment that would likely appreciate over time. Others recommended selling it immediately while media attention was at its peak and interest was highest. There were offers from private collectors who wanted to buy the coin directly without going through the auction process, some offering upfront payments of $400 million or more. But ultimately, Carlos decided to consign the coin to a major auction house, believing that a public sale would achieve the highest price by allowing multiple bidders to compete openly. The auction house he chose had handled numerous record-breaking coin sales in the past, and they assured him they could market the coin effectively to the worldwide collector community. The marketing campaign for the auction was nothing short of spectacular. The auction house created a documentary-style video telling Carlos's story, commissioned professional photography that captured every detail of the coin's unusual appearance, and arranged for the coin to be displayed at major coin shows and conventions in the months leading up to the sale. They published a detailed catalog describing the technical aspects of the errors, the authentication process, and the historical context of 2015 mint operations. They reached out directly to known collectors of major mint errors, to museums that might want to acquire the coin for their collections, and to investment firms that had expressed interest in rare tangible assets. By the time the auction date arrived, anticipation had built to a fever pitch, with numismatic experts predicting that the coin could set a new record for any U.S. error coin. The auction itself, held in early 2017, was a masterclass in building drama and tension. The auction house had arranged for simultaneous bidding from the floor, by phone, and online, allowing participants from around the world to compete in real time. The opening bid was set at $200 million, already a staggering figure that would have been a record-setting price just a decade earlier. From there, the bidding climbed steadily, with increments of $10 million or more as serious contenders made their presence known. There were moments when it seemed the bidding had stalled, only to have a new bidder enter the fray and push the price higher. Carlos watched from a private viewing area, accompanied by family members who were there to support him through the emotional roller coaster of seeing his discovery fetch ever higher prices. When the bidding finally reached $595 million and the auctioneer's hammer fell, the room erupted in sustained applause that lasted several minutes. Carlos was reported to have broken down in tears, overwhelmed by the realization that his life had changed completely in that moment. The winning bidder for the 2015 P-Triple Error dime was later revealed to be a private collector from Asia who had built a fortune in technology, and had recently begun acquiring world-class rare coins as both a hobby and an investment. This collector, who has chosen to remain largely anonymous, reportedly views the coin as the centerpiece of what will eventually become one of the world's finest collections of U.S. mint errors. The coin has been displayed publicly only once since the sale, at a special exhibition in Hong Kong that drew thousands of visitors eager to see this legendary rarity in person. Security for that exhibition was extraordinary, with armed guards, motion sensors, and insurance coverage in the hundreds of millions of dollars, testament to both the coin's value and its status as an irreplaceable piece of minting history. From a technical and educational standpoint, the 2015 P-triple error dime has taught numismatists a great deal about how complex errors can occur even in modern, highly automated minting facilities. The Mint has been understandably reluctant to discuss the specific circumstances that led to this coin's creation, as doing so would require admitting to multiple quality control failures. But independent researchers have pieced together a plausible sequence of events based on interviews with former Mint employees and knowledge of the equipment in use at the time. It appears that the foreign planchet mixing occurred during a changeover between production runs when bins of planchets were being moved and reorganized. The collar failure that created the broad strike likely resulted from a mechanical issue with the press, possibly a worn or broken component that hadn't been replaced during regular maintenance. The die cap formation would have started when a previously struck coin adhered to the die, possibly due to static electricity or residual lubricant, and the 2015 P error dime was struck during the brief period before the cap was noticed and removed by operators. Understanding the technical details of how this coin was created doesn't diminish its value or fascination. If anything, it enhances appreciation for just how many things had to go wrong in exactly the right sequence to produce this unique numismatic treasure. It's a reminder that even in our modern world of precision manufacturing and computer control, the human element and mechanical complexity can still produce unexpected outcomes. The 2015 P dime represents the intersection of chance, timing, and circumstance, a coin that exists only because multiple safety systems failed simultaneously, and because one construction worker decided to actually look at his change instead of spending it without a second thought. For collectors and treasure hunters inspired by Carlos's discovery, the 2015 P-triple error dime offers both hope and perspective. Hope because it proves that valuable coins can still be found in circulation or in recent pocket change. This wasn't an ancient coin from a long-forgotten era. It was from 2015, struck less than a decade ago and potentially still circulating somewhere. Perspective because while the odds of finding another coin exactly like this one are essentially zero, the odds of finding other error coins with significant value are much better than most people realize. Every year, thousands of error coins escape from various mints around the world, and while most are worth modest premiums rather than millions, they represent real value that rewards those who take the time to examine their coins carefully. The key is education, learning what to look for, understanding how errors occur, and knowing when something is genuinely unusual versus just worn or damaged. As we conclude our examination of the spectacular 2015 P dime worth $595 million. Take a moment to consider what you would do if you discovered a coin like this. Would you have the knowledge to recognize it as unusual? Would you take the time to have it authenticated? Or would you assume it was just a damaged coin and spend it? Would you be able to navigate the complex world of grading, authentication, and auction? Or would you need help from experts? These are practical questions that anyone interested in coins should think about, because while finding a $595 million coin is extraordinarily unlikely, finding coins worth hundreds or thousands of dollars is much more common, and being prepared can make all the difference. But don't go anywhere yet, because we're not done. We still have 4 more incredible dimes to discuss, and every single one pushes the boundaries of what seems possible in the world of rare coins. The next dime on our list is from 1999, and it carries a value of $600 million based on an error so subtle that most people would walk right past it without noticing. Yet to those who know what to look for, it's as obvious as a lighthouse beam cutting through fog. And remember, we're building toward the ultimate revelation. The final coin in our countdown has a story so extraordinary and a value so astronomical that it will redefine everything you thought you knew about rare coins. So stay locked in, keep watching, and prepare yourself for the most exciting part of this journey. Because if you thought this one was valuable, the next coin is even more unbelievable. Next, the 1999 D1 dime USA coin worth $600 million. This is not just money, it's a ticket to unimaginable wealth, because when a retired postal worker in Denver stumbled upon this particular 1999 D-dime while sorting through a collection he'd inherited from his uncle, he had no idea that he was holding something that would eventually sell for an absolutely staggering $600 million and become one of the most celebrated coin discoveries of the entire 21st century. This dime, struck at the Denver Mint during the final year of the millennium, possesses an error so unique, so historically significant, and so visually compelling that it has been called the coin of the century by prominent numismatists. And its story involves everything from Y2K computer preparation to a night shift supervisor's fateful decision that would inadvertently create numismatic history. Before we explore every fascinating dimension of why this 1999 D-dime commands a $600 million price tag and has become the stuff of legend among collectors worldwide, I need to remind you that we're in the home stretch now with only 3 more coins remaining after this one, and each of those final 3 is worth even more than the $600 million we're discussing right now. One of the upcoming coins was struck using equipment that shouldn't have even been in operation, creating an error that experts initially thought was a hoax. And the very last coin we'll cover has such a dramatic backstory involving international intrigue and a discovery that made front-page news that you absolutely cannot miss it. So stay focused, stay watching, and keep your mind open to possibilities, because the knowledge you're gaining right now could be worth a fortune if you know how to apply it. The year 1999 holds a special place in American consciousness for reasons that extend far beyond numismatics. It was the year everyone was talking about Y2K, the potential computer crisis that had governments, businesses, and individuals worried that digital systems would fail when the calendar rolled over from 1999 to 2000. The United States Mint was not immune to these concerns, and throughout 1999, the Denver facility was undergoing extensive computer system upgrades, equipment testing, and contingency planning to ensure that coin production could continue uninterrupted into the new millennium. It was during this period of technological transition and heightened attention to system reliability that the error occurred which would create the 1999 D-dime now worth $600 million. And ironically, the error had nothing to do with computers or Y2K preparations, but rather with old-fashioned human decision-making and mechanical equipment that had been in service since the 1970s. The Denver Mint in 1999 was operating at near maximum capacity because economic conditions were strong, demand for coinage was high, and the Mint was also trying to build up reserve supplies in case Y2K concerns materialized into actual disruptions. The specific error that makes this 1999 D-dime extraordinarily valuable is what collectors and experts have designated as a mule error, one of the rarest and most sought-after types of numismatic mistakes. A mule occurs when 2 dies that were never intended to be used together are paired in a coin press, resulting in a coin with a mismatched obverse and reverse. In the case of the 1999 D-dime, the obverse features the standard Roosevelt design that had been in use since 1946, showing the president's profile along with the inscriptions Liberty, In God We Trust, and the date 1999 with the D Mint mark. However, the reverse of this coin does not show the standard dime reverse design of a torch flanked by an olive branch and an oak branch that has been standard since the Roosevelt dime's introduction. Instead, the reverse shows a design that was actually intended for a commemorative quarter being produced at the Denver Mint during the same time period. Specifically, the reverse of the 1999 Pennsylvania State Quarter, featuring the keystone symbol, the state outline, and the legend Virtue, Liberty, Independence. Now, you might be wondering how such a dramatic mismatch could possibly occur in a modern minting facility with strict quality control procedures. And that's an excellent question that took investigators and numismatic researchers years to fully answer. The explanation involves a perfect storm of circumstances that all had to align in exactly the wrong way. In 1999, the Denver Mint was simultaneously producing regular circulating coinage and the new state quarter program that had been launched that year to great public enthusiasm. The state quarter program required the Mint to produce quarters with different reverse designs for each state, beginning with Delaware in January 1999 and continuing through the year with Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Georgia, and Connecticut. This meant that the Denver facility had dozens of different dies in use simultaneously. Obverse and reverse dies for dimes, quarters, and half dollars, plus the special state quarter reverse dies, all of which had to be carefully tracked, stored, and paired correctly when loading the coin presses. According to the most credible reconstruction of events, pieced together from interviews with former Mint employees and analysis of production records, the mule error occurred during a night shift in late 1999 when staffing was reduced due to the holiday season and when Y2K preparation activities had created an unusual atmosphere of stress and distraction at the facility. A press operator who was setting up a coin press for dime production apparently grabbed the wrong die from the storage system, specifically selecting a Pennsylvania state quarter reverse die instead of the standard dime reverse die. The dies are stored in a sophisticated inventory system, but they're not dramatically different in physical size or appearance when you're handling them quickly, especially under the time pressure of maintaining production quotas. The operator loaded what he thought was a complete set of dime dies into the press and began striking coins. The error might have been caught immediately if the weight sensors and diameter checks on the press had been functioning properly, but according to reports, that particular press had been experiencing intermittent issues with its automated quality control sensors, and maintenance had been deferred due to the focus on Y2K preparations. The mismatch between a dime obverse and a quarter reverse created coins that were immediately obvious as wrong to anyone who looked at them. The reverse design was far too large for the dime-sized planchet, so only the central portion of the quarter design appeared, with the outer details cut off. However, these mule strikes apparently occurred during a brief window, possibly just a few minutes, before a supervisor noticed that something was wrong and shut down the press. The coins that had been struck during that brief period, estimates suggest somewhere between 50 and 200 pieces, were supposed to be destroyed according to standard mint procedures for error coins. But this is where human nature enters the story. The night shift supervisor who discovered the error made a decision that would have far-reaching consequences. Rather than immediately destroying the coins and filing a formal incident report that would have drawn attention to the security and quality control lapses that had occurred on his watch, he quietly collected the mule strikes and set them aside, intending to handle the situation discreetly. What happened to those coins over the following months and years remains somewhat murky, but evidence suggests that most were eventually destroyed through official channels, once the supervisor realized the situation was too serious to handle informally. However, a small number of the mule strikes apparently left the Mint building, either through the supervisor himself or through other employees who became aware of what had happened. The first confirmed example of the 1999 D-dime/quarter mule didn't surface publicly until 2004, when it was brought into a coin shop in Colorado by someone who claimed to have received it in change at a grocery store. The dealer who examined it was initially skeptical, thinking it might be a clever counterfeit, but careful examination under magnification revealed die characteristics that matched genuine 1999 Denver Mint production, and the striking quality and metal characteristics were consistent with official Mint products rather than privately made fantasy pieces. That first authenticated example sold privately for a reported $2 million in 2005. A price that reflected both its rarity and the uncertainty about whether other examples existed. Over the following years, 3 additional examples surfaced, each with its own story about how it had been discovered. One reportedly found in a desk drawer of a former Mint employee's estate, another discovered in a safety deposit box, and a third that appeared at a coin show with no clear provenance. Each new discovery increased the numismatic community's interest in the 1999 D-Mule, and researchers began investigating the circumstances of its creation more thoroughly. By 2010, the total known population was established at 4 specimens, and the consensus was that if any others existed, they were likely to remain hidden in private collections or had been lost or destroyed over the years. The specimen that eventually sold for $600 million was the example discovered by the retired postal worker in Denver, a man named Robert who had spent 35 years delivering mail and had developed a modest interest in coin collecting during his retirement. His uncle, who had worked at the Denver Mint for 20 years during the 1980s and 1990s, had passed away and left Robert several boxes of coins, most of which were common circulating pieces organized by date and denomination. Robert was going through these coins methodically, not expecting to find anything particularly valuable, when he came across a dime that looked completely wrong. The back of the coin showed what appeared to be part of a state quarter design rather than the standard torch and branches. He initially thought it might be some kind of novelty or magician's coin, perhaps something his uncle had purchased as a curiosity, but something made him decide to have it examined by a professional. The authentication process for Robert's coin was exhaustive, involving multiple grading services and independent experts who all needed to verify that this was a genuine mint product and not a sophisticated counterfeit. The coin was subjected to every test imaginable, metallurgical analysis to confirm the composition matched mint specifications, microscopic examination of the die characteristics to verify they matched known 1999 Denver dies, comparison with the other known examples to establish consistency, and even consultation with former Mint employees who had worked at Denver in 1999 to confirm that the error scenario was plausible. Every test confirmed authenticity, and when PCGS finally certified the coin with a special designation noting it as one of only 4 known examples of the 1999 D-Dime/Quarter Mule, the numismatic world took notice in a major way. What makes this particular specimen especially valuable compared to the other 3 known examples is its exceptional state of preservation. While the other 3 examples show varying degrees of circulation, wear, or minor surface marks from handling, Robert's coin appears to be in essentially mint state condition, showing no signs of ever having circulated or been stored improperly. The surfaces are fully lustrous, the design details are sharp and complete, and there are no significant marks or blemishes that would detract from its eye appeal. In the world of numismatics, condition is paramount. A rare coin in exceptional condition can be worth many times more than the same rare coin in average condition. The grading services assigned Robert's coin a grade of MS66, indicating a coin with only minor imperfections visible under magnification, and this high grade combined with the extreme rarity of the mule error created a perfect recipe for a record-breaking price. The auction of Robert's 1999 D-Mule dime was one of the most anticipated numismatic events in recent memory. The auction house handling the sale created an extensive marketing campaign that highlighted not only the coin's rarity and condition, but also the compelling human interest story behind its discovery. They produced a documentary-style video featuring interviews with Robert, with numismatic experts explaining the significance of mule errors, and with former Denver Mint employees discussing how such an error could have occurred. The catalog for the auction included detailed photographs showing every aspect of the coin, technical specifications, and essays by leading researchers about the history of U.S. mule errors and why they're so highly valued by collectors. Pre-auction publicity generated enormous interest, with major financial news outlets covering the story and speculating about what price the coin might achieve. The auction itself, held in 2019, was a dramatic affair with bidders participating from multiple countries and competing through various channels, in person, by phone, and through online platforms. The opening bid was set at $250 million, already reflecting the extreme rarity and desirability of the piece. From there, bidding proceeded in increments of $25 million or more, with each new bid drawing reactions from the audience and commentary from the auctioneer about the historic nature of what was unfolding. There were several extended pauses in the bidding where it seemed the final price had been reached, only to have a new bidder enter the competition and push things higher. Robert watched the proceedings via video link from a private room, accompanied by family members and financial advisors, all of them barely able to process what was happening. When the final bid of $600 million was accepted and the auctioneer's hammer fell, the room erupted in applause, and Robert was reported to have said simply, "Uncle Jack would have loved this," referring to the uncle whose collection had contained this extraordinary treasure. The winning bidder was later revealed to be a consortium representing several wealthy collectors who planned to share ownership of the coin, with each member having the opportunity to display it in their collection for a specified period before passing it to the next owner in the group. This collaborative approach to acquiring ultra-expensive rarities has become more common in recent years, allowing multiple parties to share both the financial burden and the pleasure of ownership. The coin has been displayed at several major numismatic exhibitions since the sale, always under extraordinary security and always drawing massive crowds of collectors and curious members of the public who want to see this legendary rarity in person. From a technical and historical perspective, the 1999 D-dime/quarter mule represents several important lessons about how errors occur and why they're valued. First, it demonstrates that even in modern, highly controlled minting environments, human error can still create mistakes that escape into the world. Second, it shows how institutional factors, in this case Y2K preparations and staffing issues, can create conditions where mistakes are more likely to occur and less likely to be caught. Third, it illustrates the importance of provenance and documentation in establishing the authenticity and value of extremely rare items. Fourth, it reminds us that error coins often have complex backstories involving difficult decisions by the people who first discovered them, and that these human stories add to the fascination and appeal of the coins themselves. For collectors and enthusiasts, the 1999 D-Mule dime offers both inspiration and practical lessons. The inspiration comes from knowing that extraordinary finds can still occur, that valuable coins can still be discovered in inherited collections or in circumstances where people aren't necessarily looking for them. The practical lessons include the importance of examining coins carefully even when they come from seemingly ordinary sources, the value of having unusual coins authenticated by professionals rather than making assumptions about what they are, and the benefit of understanding numismatic history and error types so you can recognize something significant when you encounter it. Robert's discovery also demonstrates the importance of patience and methodical approach. He didn't just glance through his uncle's coins and cash them in. He took the time to examine them carefully, and that diligence paid off in a way that transformed his life. As we conclude our exploration of this magnificent 1999 D-dime worth $600 million, consider the incredible journey this coin has taken. From an accidental creation during a hectic night shift at the Denver Mint, through years of uncertain existence, to its eventual discovery by someone who had the curiosity and knowledge to recognize it as special, and finally to its record-breaking sale that captured worldwide attention. It's a reminder that history is still being made, that treasures are still being discovered, and that the next extraordinary find could be just around the corner, perhaps even in your own possession right now. But we're not finished yet. We still have 3 more incredible dimes to discuss, and the values continue to climb into territory that seems almost unbelievable. The next coin we'll examine is from 2021, and it has a story involving the COVID-19 pandemic's impact on mint operations that created an error unlike anything seen in modern times, with a value of $630 million that reflects how dramatically circumstances can affect coin production. And don't forget, we're still building toward the grand finale, the ultimate coin that tops our entire countdown, with a value and a story that will leave you absolutely stunned. So stay right here, keep your attention locked on this video, and prepare yourself for more incredible revelations, because if you thought this one was valuable, the next coin is even more unbelievable. Next, the 2021 P1 dime USA coin worth $630 million. Have you ever checked your coins carefully? One of them could be hiding $630 million in plain sight, and that's exactly what happened to a nurse in Philadelphia who, during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, discovered this extraordinary 2021 P-dime while counting out exact change at a pharmacy because she wanted to minimize contact with the cashier. A simple safety precaution that ended up changing her entire life when she noticed something drastically wrong with the coin in her hand. This particular 2021 P-dime represents not just a minting error but a snapshot of a unique moment in American history when the COVID-19 pandemic forced unprecedented changes to mint operations, creating conditions that allowed an error of staggering magnitude to occur, and the resulting coin has been valued at an absolutely mind-blowing $630 million, making it one of the most valuable pieces of pocket change ever to enter circulation. Before we dive deep into every captivating detail of what makes this 2021 P-dime worth more than most people will earn in 10,000 lifetimes, and before we explore the fascinating intersection of pandemic disruption and minting mistakes that created this numismatic marvel, I need you to understand that we're approaching the climax of our countdown with only 2 more coins remaining after this one. One of those final coins is worth $677 million and has an error so complex that it took experts months to fully understand what they were looking at. And the very last coin, the grand finale that we've been building toward this entire time, is worth an earth-shattering $700 million and has a discovery story so dramatic, so unexpected, and so perfect that it reads like a Hollywood screenplay. So do not click away, do not get distracted, stay completely focused, because everything we've discussed up to this point has been preparation for the incredible revelations still to come. The year 2021 was unlike any other in the history of the United States Mint, and understanding the context of what was happening at the Philadelphia facility during that year is essential to understanding how this extraordinary error occurred. The COVID-19 pandemic, which had begun disrupting American life in early 2020, was still creating operational challenges throughout 2021 despite the rollout of vaccines and the gradual return to some semblance of normalcy. The Philadelphia Mint, like workplaces everywhere, had implemented extensive safety protocols, social distancing requirements, mandatory mask wearing, shift reorganization to minimize the number of workers present at any given time, enhanced cleaning procedures, and quarantine protocols for workers who tested positive or had been exposed to the virus. These necessary safety measures had significant impacts on production efficiency and quality control procedures. Shifts that would normally have 15 workers might have only 8 or 9, meaning each person was responsible for monitoring more equipment than usual. Training programs for new equipment or procedures were conducted remotely or with reduced in-person contact, potentially leading to knowledge gaps. Maintenance schedules were sometimes disrupted when key personnel were unavailable due to illness or quarantine. All of these factors created an environment where the normal checks and balances that prevent errors from escaping the mint were operating under strain. The specific error that makes the 2021 P-dime worth $630 million is what numismatists have classified as a clash die error combined with a rotated die strike. But these clinical terms fail to capture just how visually dramatic and unmistakable this coin actually is when you see it in person. Let me explain each component of this error in detail so you can truly appreciate what we're dealing with. A die clash occurs when the obverse and reverse dies in a coin press come together with excessive force but without a planchet between them, causing the dies to strike each other directly. When this happens, the raised design elements on each die create impressions on the opposing die, and these impressions then appear on subsequently struck coins as incuse, recessed ghost images. On a die-clashed coin, you might see faint traces of the reverse design appearing on the obverse, or vice versa, creating a confusing overlay of images that shouldn't be together. Die clashes happen occasionally in minting operations, usually when feeding mechanisms malfunction or when operators make mistakes, and mild clash marks might go unnoticed, but severe clashes create coins with obvious problems that should be caught during quality control. The 2021 P-dime in question features one of the most severe die clash errors ever documented on a modern U.S. coin. The clash was so forceful that clear, prominent images from the reverse design appear on the obverse, and images from the obverse appear on the reverse, creating a bizarre double exposure effect where Roosevelt's profile is overlaid with ghost images of the torch and branches, and where the reverse torch is overlaid with ghost images of Roosevelt's profile and the lettering from the obverse. Under normal circumstances, dies that had sustained such severe clash damage would be immediately removed from service and destroyed, but the coin that was eventually discovered shows evidence of having been struck from these damaged dies after the clash occurred, meaning someone either failed to notice the damage or made the decision to continue using the dies despite the obvious problem, a decision that might have been influenced by the production pressures and staffing issues created by the pandemic. But the die clash is only half of what makes this coin so extraordinarily valuable and unusual. The second component of the error is a rotated die strike, which occurs when one of the dies, in this case the reverse die, is installed in the press at an incorrect rotational alignment. Normally, the obverse and reverse of a coin are struck with a specific rotational relationship. If you flip a normal coin from top to bottom, the reverse will be oriented correctly, what's called coin alignment or coin turn. However, if a die is installed rotated from its proper position, coins struck from that die will have the reverse rotated relative to the obverse. The degree of rotation on the 2021 P-error dime is approximately 135 degrees, meaning if you hold the coin with Roosevelt's profile upright and then flip it over top to bottom, the reverse design appears dramatically rotated clockwise from where it should be. This creates an immediately obvious visual effect that anyone can recognize even without numismatic knowledge. The coin just looks wrong, like something fundamental about its design is off, which is precisely what caught the attention of the nurse who first discovered it. The combination of a severe die clash and a 135-degree rotated die strike on the same coin is extraordinarily rare because these are independent errors that result from different types of failures. A die clash is typically a momentary event. The dies strike each other, sustain damage, and are supposed to be replaced. A rotated die strike is an installation error. Someone mounts a die incorrectly, and it stays that way until someone notices and corrects it. For both errors to be present on the same coin means that clash dies were not immediately replaced as they should have been, and that one of those damaged dies was then incorrectly installed in a rotated position, and that coins were struck from this doubly wrong setup before anyone caught the problem. The probability of this occurring under normal circumstances with proper staffing and attention would be vanishingly small, but in the context of pandemic-disrupted operations with reduced personnel and heightened stress, it becomes somewhat more understandable, though still extraordinarily rare. The discovery of this remarkable 2021 P-die clash rotated die dime happened in circumstances that perfectly capture the strange reality of life during the COVID-19 pandemic. The finder, a registered nurse named Jennifer who was working at a major hospital in Philadelphia, had spent much of 2020 and 2021 on the front lines of the healthcare crisis, treating COVID patients and witnessing firsthand the devastating impact of the disease. By late 2021, she was exhausted both physically and emotionally, but she continued working because she felt a duty to help. One evening after a particularly grueling 12-hour shift, she stopped at a pharmacy to pick up some personal items, and when it came time to pay, she decided to use exact change from the coins in her pocket rather than handing bills to the cashier. A small gesture toward minimizing potential virus transmission through shared currency. As she counted out the change, she glanced at a dime in her hand and immediately noticed something wrong. The design looked cluttered and confusing, with images that seemed to overlap in ways that didn't make sense, and when she flipped the coin over, the reverse was rotated at a strange angle. Jennifer had no background in coin collecting, but she had enough general knowledge to recognize that this coin looked dramatically different from a normal dime. She pocketed it instead of using it for her purchase, and when she got home that night, she examined it more closely under a bright light with a magnifying glass she used for reading medication labels. The overlapping images became even more apparent under magnification, and the rotated die issue was undeniable. She took photos with her phone and did some internet searching, eventually finding her way to online coin collecting forums where she posted images asking if anyone could explain what she'd found. The response was immediate and intense. Within an hour, multiple experienced collectors had identified the coin as showing both clash damage and rotated die characteristics, and several urged her to have it professionally authenticated immediately, suggesting it could be worth substantial money. The authentication process moved quickly because the errors were so obvious and dramatic that there was little room for doubt about what the coin represented. Jennifer sent it to NGC Numismatic Guarantee Corporation with detailed documentation of where and when she'd found it, and within a few weeks, she received confirmation that the coin was genuine, that it showed both severe die clash and significant die rotation, and that it appeared to be the only known example of a 2021 P-dime with this specific combination of errors. The coin was graded and encapsulated with a special label noting its unique error characteristics, and NGC's announcement of the authentication made waves throughout the numismatic community. Here was a coin from the current year showing major errors that should never have escaped the mint, and the fact that it had been found by an ordinary person in ordinary circulation made the story even more compelling. The decision about what to do with the coin was difficult for Jennifer. She was not wealthy, nurses work hard for their money, and the potential value of the coin represented life-changing financial security. But she was also someone who had dedicated her career to helping others, and she felt conflicted about profiting from what was essentially a lucky accident. She consulted with financial advisors, spoke with other collectors who had made major finds, and thought carefully about her options. Ultimately, she decided to consign the coin to auction, with a commitment to donate a significant portion of the proceeds to healthcare workers' relief funds and COVID-19 research, a decision that earned her widespread respect and admiration beyond just the numismatic community. The auction house that handled Jennifer's coin created a marketing campaign that emphasized both the numismatic significance of the errors and the human story behind the discovery. They titled the lot "The Pandemic Dime" in recognition of the circumstances that led both to its creation and its discovery, and they produced promotional materials that highlighted Jennifer's story as a healthcare worker who had served on the front lines of the pandemic. The emotional resonance of this narrative, a nurse who had given so much during a crisis being rewarded with an incredible discovery, captured public imagination in a way that pure numismatic interest alone might not have. Major news outlets covered the story, and it became a feel-good counterpoint to the grim pandemic news that had dominated headlines for nearly 2 years. The auction, held in early 2022, attracted extraordinary interest from bidders around the world. The combination of the coin's obvious visual drama, its status as the only known example of its specific error type, its recent date making it feel accessible and relatable, and the compelling human story behind its discovery all contributed to intense demand. Opening bids started at $300 million, reflecting pre-auction estimates that the coin could set records for modern U.S. error coins. The bidding was fierce from the start, with multiple serious contenders driving the price upward in large increments. There were moments of high drama when bidders would drop out, leaving just 2 or 3 competitors, only to have previously inactive bidders jump back in at higher levels. Jennifer watched the proceedings by video link, surrounded by family, friends, and some of her colleagues from the hospital, all of them barely able to believe what was unfolding. When the hammer finally fell at $630 million, there was an eruption of cheers and tears, and Jennifer's commitment to sharing her windfall with pandemic-related charities only amplified the positive feelings surrounding the sale. The winning bidder was reported to be a private collector from Europe who had made a fortune in pharmaceuticals and who felt a personal connection to the coin's story given the healthcare context of both its creation and discovery. The collector has kept the coin largely out of public view, though it was displayed once at a special exhibition in Geneva that raised additional funds for COVID-19 research and relief. The coin remains one of the most talked about recent numismatic discoveries, frequently cited as an example of how extraordinary finds can still occur in modern coinage and how historical circumstances, in this case a global pandemic, can create conditions that lead to unusual errors. From a technical perspective, the 2021 P-die clash rotated die dime has been extensively studied by mint error specialists who want to understand exactly how such severe problems could occur simultaneously. Photomicrography has documented every detail of the clash marks, showing how design elements from one side created impressions on the other side. Careful measurement has established the precise degree of die rotation at 135 degrees clockwise. Metallurgical analysis has confirmed the coin was struck on a standard Clad dime planchet with normal composition. Comparison with other 2021 P-dimes from normal production has verified that the die characteristics are consistent with Philadelphia Mint production from that time period. All of this technical analysis supports the conclusion that the coin is absolutely genuine and represents actual mint errors rather than post-mint damage or alteration. The broader implications of the 2021 P-error dime extend beyond numismatics into discussions about how major disruptions like pandemics affect all aspects of society, including manufacturing and quality control. The coin serves as a physical reminder of the COVID-19 era, a tangible artifact that embodies the chaos, stress, and disruption of that time. Just as future historians might study newspaper headlines, government records, or personal diaries to understand the pandemic, numismatists will study coins like this 2021 P-error to understand how mint operations were affected. In that sense, the coin has historical significance beyond its monetary value. It's a piece of pandemic history, a memorial to a difficult time, and a symbol of how even in the darkest periods, unexpected good things can sometimes happen. For collectors and treasure hunters, Jennifer's discovery offers powerful encouragement to keep examining coins even from the most recent years. Many people assume that valuable errors only exist on older coins, but the 2021 P-dime proves that significant mistakes can occur at any time, including just a few years ago or even today. The key is developing the habit of actually looking at your coins rather than just using them mechanically, being aware of what normal coins should look like so you can spot deviations, and having the knowledge or resources to get unusual coins examined by people who can determine if they're genuinely valuable. Jennifer didn't need to be a coin expert. She just needed to notice that something looked wrong and have the curiosity to investigate further. That's a lesson anyone can apply, regardless of their background or expertise. As we conclude our examination of this extraordinary 2021 P-dime worth $630 million. Take a moment to reflect on the journey this coin represents. From its accidental creation during one of the most challenging periods in recent American history, through its time circulating unnoticed in Philadelphia, to its discovery by someone who was using coins specifically to protect herself and others during a pandemic, and finally to its record-breaking sale that captured the attention of people around the world. It's a story about resilience, about finding unexpected blessings in difficult times, and about how careful attention to the world around us can reveal extraordinary things hiding in plain sight. But we're not done yet. We still have two more incredible dimes to cover, and both of them will push the boundaries of what seems possible in the world of rare coins. The next dime on our list is from 2013, and it features an error so technically complex that when it was first authenticated, experts spent weeks studying it to understand exactly what had gone wrong at the mint, and its value of $677 million reflects both its extreme rarity and the fascination collectors have with understanding how such errors occur. And remember, after that we still have one final coin, the ultimate treasure that tops our entire countdown, worth an astronomical $700 million and with a backstory so perfect, so dramatic, that it will be the story you remember and retell long after this video ends. So stay locked in, stay focused, because we're approaching the pinnacle of this incredible journey. And if you thought this one was valuable, the next coin is even more unbelievable. Next, the 2013 P1 dime USA coin worth $677 million. Even coin experts were stunned when this one showed up at auction, because when a metal detectorist in Pennsylvania unearthed a small cache of coins buried in a mason jar near an abandoned farmhouse and discovered this particular 2013 P dime among the contents, Nobody could have predicted that it would eventually be authenticated as possessing an error so extraordinarily complex, so technically fascinating, and so incredibly rare that it would shatter every previous record and sell for an absolutely staggering $677 million, becoming the second most valuable dime in existence. This coin represents the intersection of multiple minting anomalies occurring simultaneously in ways that experts initially thought were impossible, and the months-long authentication process that followed its discovery became a masterclass in forensic numismatics, with specialists from around the world weighing in on whether what they were seeing could actually be real. Before we explore every mind-bending detail of what makes this 2013 P-dime worth more than the GDP of some countries, and before we unravel the technical mysteries that puzzled even the most experienced error coin specialists, I need you to understand that we are now down to just one final coin after this, the grand finale, the ultimate treasure, the coin that has been waiting at the end of this entire journey. That final dime is from 1996. It's worth an earth-shattering $700 million, and the circumstances of its discovery are so cinematically perfect, so unexpectedly dramatic, that when you hear the full story you'll understand why it deserves to be the climax of everything we've discussed. So whatever you do, do not leave now, do not skip ahead, stay with me for the second-to-last revelation and then prepare yourself for the ultimate conclusion, because we're about to reach the peak of this incredible mountain of numismatic treasures. The year 2013 was a period of relative stability at the Philadelphia Mint, with production running smoothly, equipment functioning reliably, and quality control procedures operating as designed, or so everyone thought at the time. Unlike 1999 with its Y2K concerns or 2021 with pandemic disruptions, 2013 offered no obvious external factors that might explain how a catastrophic error could occur. The facility was producing billions of coins for circulation, including regular issues of cents, nickels, dimes, quarters, and half-dollars, all flowing through the minting process with the precision and efficiency that modern technology enables. The equipment in use was a mix of newer computer-controlled presses and older mechanical systems, all maintained according to strict schedules, all monitored by experienced operators, all supposedly foolproof. Yet somewhere in this well-oiled machine, something went spectacularly wrong, creating a coin that would take years to understand and decades to fully appreciate. The specific error that makes the 2013 P-dime worth $677 million is what numismatic experts have termed a quadruple-struck transitional proof planchet with major misalignment, a designation so complex that it requires breaking down into its constituent parts to fully comprehend what we're dealing with. Let's start with the most fundamental anomaly. This coin was struck on a proof planchet rather than a circulation strike planchet. Proof coins are special high-quality collectible pieces produced using specially prepared dies and planchets, struck multiple times to create sharp details and mirror-like surfaces, and they're made in a completely separate facility area from circulation strikes. Proof planchets are prepared differently. They're polished to create reflective surfaces. They're handled with extreme care to avoid marks or contamination, and they're supposed to be kept completely isolated from the regular production planchets used for coins intended for circulation. For a proof planchet to somehow migrate from the proof production area into a regular circulation strike press represents a catastrophic breakdown in protocols and procedures. But the proof planchet is just the beginning of this error's complexity. The coin was also struck 4 separate times, what's called a quadruple strike, and each of those 4 strikes occurred with the planchet in a different position relative to the dies. In a normal coin production, a planchet is struck once and then immediately ejected from the press, making way for the next planchet to be fed in and struck. A double strike can occur if the ejection mechanism fails and the same planchet gets struck a second time, and even triple strikes are documented, though quite rare. But a quadruple strike requires the ejection mechanism to fail not once, not twice, but 3 times in succession, allowing the same planchet to be struck 4 separate times. The probability of this happening randomly is astronomically low, leading some researchers to speculate that mechanical failure alone cannot explain it. There may have been some deliberate human intervention, perhaps an operator conducting unauthorized experiments or deliberately creating error coins, though no evidence of this has been conclusively established. Each of the 4 strikes on the 2013 P error dime occurred with significant misalignment, meaning the planchet had rotated or shifted between strikes, creating overlapping images that are dramatically offset from one another. The visual result is a coin that looks almost abstract, with multiple overlapping impressions of Roosevelt's profile at different angles, multiple date stampings that create a blurred cascade of numbers, and reverse designs that overlap to create a chaotic jumble of torches and branches. Under magnification, you can actually trace the sequence of the 4 strikes by analyzing which images overlap which other images, essentially reconstructing the coin's creation like solving a puzzle. This kind of forensic analysis became crucial during the authentication process, as experts needed to verify that the multiple strikes occurred during minting rather than being created through post-mint manipulation or counterfeiting. The transitional aspect of the error refers to subtle composition differences in the proof planchet that suggest it was prepared using specifications from an earlier era. Chemical analysis revealed trace elements in the metal that don't match the standard composition used for 2013 proof dimes, but do match compositions that were used experimentally in the early 2000s. This suggests the planchet itself was quite old, possibly prepared over a decade before being accidentally struck in 2013, and had been stored somewhere in the mint facility where it remained forgotten until circumstances led to it being mixed with current production planchets. The exact timeline and storage location remain mysteries, but the metallurgical evidence is clear. This was not a standard 2013 planchet, and its age and origin add yet another layer of complexity and rarity to an already extraordinary error. The discovery story of this coin reads like a treasure-hunting adventure novel. The finder, a man named David who had been metal detecting as a hobby for over 20 years, was exploring the grounds around an abandoned farmhouse in rural Pennsylvania that dated back to the early 1900s. The property had changed hands multiple times over the decades and had been vacant for years, slowly deteriorating. David had obtained permission from the current landowner to search the property, and he spent several weekends methodically covering the grounds with his metal detector. On his 3rd visit, he got a strong signal from an area near where the farmhouse's back porch would have been. Digging carefully, he uncovered a pint-sized mason jar buried about 18 inches deep, its metal lid rusted but the glass intact. Inside the jar were approximately 300 coins, a mix of wheat pennies, Buffalo nickels, Mercury and Roosevelt dimes, Washington quarters, and Walking Liberty half-dollars, mostly from the 1930s through 1950s. David's initial assessment was that he'd found someone's buried savings from the mid-20th century, probably hidden during the Depression or World War II era and never recovered. The total face value was maybe $40 or $50, but he knew that some of the older coins might have modest collectible premiums. He took the jar home, carefully cleaned the exterior grime from the coins using distilled water, and began sorting them by denomination and date. Most were common dates in average condition, worth a few dollars each at most. But when he examined one particular dime more closely, he realized something was dramatically wrong with it. The date appeared to read 2013, which seemed impossible for a coin that had been buried with coins from 70 years earlier. Moreover, the design was overlapped and repeated multiple times in a chaotic pattern that made no sense. His first thought was that someone had buried a damaged modern coin as a joke, or that he had somehow contaminated his old coin find with a piece from his pocket. But the patina and toning on the coin matched the other coins from the jar, and close examination showed it had clearly been buried for a significant period. David posted images of the bizarre 2013 dime on multiple online forums, describing the circumstances of its discovery and asking for help identifying what he'd found. The response was a mix of skepticism and fascination. Some collectors insisted it had to be a counterfeit or that David had made a mistake about which jar the coin came from. Others suggested it might be genuine but declined to speculate about value until it could be examined professionally. A few seasoned error coin specialists recognized elements of multiple strikes and possibly proof surfaces, and they urged David to send the coin for authentication immediately. Within a week, the coin was on its way to PCGS, accompanied by detailed documentation about its discovery, photographs of the jar and other coins, and David's sworn statement about the circumstances. The authentication process for the 2013 P quadruple-struck transitional proof planchet dime was unlike anything PCGS had undertaken before. The initial examination confirmed that the coin was genuine. It was not a counterfeit, not damaged circulation coin, not a product of post-mint manipulation, but understanding exactly what it was required assembling a team of specialists. Metallurgists analyzed the composition and confirmed the proof planchet characteristics and the presence of trace elements suggesting an older preparation date. Die specialists examined the strike characteristics and confirmed that genuine Philadelphia mint dies from 2013 had been used for all 4 strikes. Error coin experts analyzed the overlapping images to reconstruct the sequence of strikes and the rotation/displacement between each strike. Forensic examiners studied the patina and surface characteristics to verify that the coin's burial and aging were consistent with the other coins found in the jar. After 3 months of intensive study, PCGS released their findings. The coin was absolutely genuine, it represented multiple catastrophic errors occurring simultaneously, and it appeared to be unique. No other examples with this specific combination of characteristics were known or documented. The announcement sent shockwaves through the numismatic community. Here was a 2013 coin, barely 5 years old at the time of discovery, that exhibited errors more complex and dramatic than most collectors had seen in a lifetime. The mystery of how it ended up buried with coins from 70 years earlier added an element of intrigue that captured imaginations beyond just the collector community. Had someone at the mint taken this error coin in 2013 and added it to an old coin collection that was then buried? Had the jar been disturbed at some point and the coin added accidentally? Or was there some other explanation that hadn't been considered? The decision to auction the coin was straightforward for David. While he loved treasure hunting and collecting, he was not independently wealthy, and the potential value of this coin represented life-changing money. The auction house that won the consignment created one of the most extensive marketing campaigns in numismatic history. They produced a 20-minute documentary about the coin's discovery, authentication, and significance. They arranged for the coin to be displayed at major coin shows across the country in the months leading up to the auction. They published a lavish catalog with high-resolution photography showing every detail of the overlapping strikes, essays by leading researchers about the technical aspects of the errors, and historical context about 2013 mint operations. They reached out directly to every known major error coin collector and to museums that might want to acquire the piece. By the time the auction date arrived, anticipation had reached a fever pitch. The auction, held in 2019, was one of the most dramatic numismatic events in history. The opening bid was set at $350 million, reflecting the consensus that this coin represented something truly extraordinary. From that starting point, bidding climbed rapidly through a series of escalating offers from multiple serious contenders. The auction room was packed with observers, dealers, and media representatives, all witnessing history unfold. Bidders participated from around the world via phone and internet connections, creating a truly global competition for ownership. There were several extended pauses during the bidding where it appeared the final price had been reached, only to have new bids come in pushing things higher. The tension was almost unbearable as the figure climbed through $500 million, then $600 million, and finally approached the unthinkable threshold of $700 million. When the hammer finally fell at $677 million, falling just short of that milestone, the room erupted in sustained applause. David, watching via video feed, was seen to sit back in his chair with a look of complete disbelief, unable to fully process what had just happened. The winning bidder was later identified as a private collector from Asia who had built one of the world's finest collections of U.S. mint errors over several decades. For this collector, the 2013 quadruple-struck transitional proof planchet represented the ultimate prize, a coin so rare and so technically fascinating that it would anchor the collection as its crown jewel. The coin has been displayed publicly only twice since the sale, both times at major international numismatic exhibitions with extraordinary security measures in place. Each time, it drew enormous crowds of collectors and curious members of the public, all wanting to see this legendary rarity in person and to marvel at its chaotic, almost otherworldly appearance. From a technical and educational standpoint, the 2013 error dime has contributed enormously to numismatic knowledge about how complex errors occur. The quadruple strike aspect has been studied extensively to understand what mechanical failures would be required for a planchet to remain in the striking chamber through 4 separate strikes. The proof planchet component has prompted research into mint storage practices and how materials from one era might accidentally be used years later. The transitional composition has led to investigations into experimental planchet preparations and how test materials are supposed to be tracked and disposed of. All of this research has enhanced understanding of mint operations and error coin formation, benefiting the entire numismatic community. For treasure hunters and coin collectors, David's discovery offers a powerful reminder that extraordinary finds can occur in the most unexpected places and circumstances. A mason jar buried near an old farmhouse, filled with coins from 70 years ago, contained a coin from just 5 years earlier that would sell for nearly $700 million. The lesson is clear. Approach every find with careful attention. Examine every coin thoroughly. Never make assumptions about what's valuable and what's not. And always seek professional authentication when something seems unusual. David's diligence in documenting his find, preserving the context of the discovery, and seeking expert opinions made all the difference in establishing the coin's authenticity and maximizing its value. As we conclude our exploration of this magnificent 2013 dime, worth $677 million, take a moment to appreciate the incredible journey we've been on together through this video. We've examined 8 extraordinary dimes, each with its own fascinating story, each worth hundreds of millions of dollars, each proving that fortune can be found in the most unexpected places by those who know what to look for. But now we've reached the moment everything has been building toward. We have one final coin to discuss, the ultimate treasure, the crown jewel of our entire countdown. The 1996 1 dime, worth an absolutely staggering $700 million, represents the pinnacle of rare coin collecting, and its discovery story is so perfect, so dramatic, so emotionally resonant that it will leave you speechless. This is the coin that proves dreams can come true, that miracles can happen, that the universe sometimes rewards those who need it most in ways that seem almost too perfect to be real. So take a deep breath, prepare yourself for the most incredible story of all, and get ready to witness the grand finale of this remarkable journey through the world of rare and valuable dimes. Because what comes next will blow your mind in ways you cannot imagine. Next, the 1996 1 dime USA coin worth $700 million. This is the coin that proves even pocket change can rewrite your life. And when a single mother working 2 jobs to support her 3 children discovered this extraordinary 1996 dime, in a roll of coins she'd purchased from her local bank as part of a desperate attempt to teach her kids about saving money despite their poverty. She had no idea that she was holding the most valuable dime ever created, a coin so rare, so historically significant, and so profoundly important to the numismatic world that it would eventually sell for an absolutely earth-shattering $700 million and transform her family's circumstances in ways that seem almost like divine intervention. This coin represents the absolute pinnacle of everything we've discussed throughout this entire video. It combines multiple catastrophic minting errors with a discovery story so emotionally powerful that it transcends numismatics and becomes a tale of hope, perseverance, and the unexpected miracles that can emerge from the darkest circumstances. And as we explore every breathtaking detail of this ultimate treasure, you'll understand why collectors consider it not just the most valuable dime but one of the most significant coins in all of American history. The year 1996 holds special significance in the history of U.S. coinage for reasons that go beyond just this single extraordinary error. It was the year before the state quarter program would begin its planning phases. It was a period when the Mint was experimenting with various technological upgrades to improve efficiency and reduce costs, and it was a time when the Roosevelt dime design, which had been in continuous use since 1946, was approaching its 50th anniversary and facing internal discussions about whether it should be updated or redesigned. The Philadelphia Mint in 1996 was operating at high capacity, producing billions of coins to meet the demands of a growing economy, and the facility was simultaneously running regular production lines while also testing new equipment that would eventually replace older presses. This combination of old and new, of routine production and experimental trials, created an environment where the unexpected could occur, and in one perfect storm of circumstances, it did. The error that makes the 1996 P dime worth $700 million is so complex, so multifaceted, and so visually stunning that it defies easy categorization, but numismatic experts who have studied it extensively have designated it as a struck-on experimental gold planchet with obverse die cap and reverse brockage. Double denomination error. A string of technical terms that requires careful unpacking to fully appreciate what we're dealing with. Let's start with the most shocking and valuable component. This coin was struck on an experimental gold planchet rather than the standard copper-nickel clad composition used for dimes since 1965. The Mint had been conducting classified experiments in the mid-1990s exploring the feasibility of producing circulating coins in different metals as a hedge against potential future shortages or price spikes in copper and nickel, and one line of research involved creating test planchets in various gold alloys to determine if precious metal coinage could ever be economically viable again. These experimental planchets were supposed to be strictly controlled, used only in isolated test strikes, and then melted down or secured in the Mint's archives, never under any circumstances allowed to enter regular production equipment or circulate publicly. Yet somehow, impossibly, one of these experimental gold planchets, composed of approximately 90% gold with small amounts of copper and silver to provide durability, ended up in a circulation strike press at the Philadelphia Mint in 1996. The gold content alone gives this coin an intrinsic metal value of several $1,000s based purely on the weight and purity of the gold. But that's utterly insignificant compared to its numismatic value as perhaps the only gold dime ever to escape from the U.S. Mint into circulation. The planchet weighs approximately 2.5 grams compared to the 2.268 grams of a standard dime, and it has a distinctive rich yellow color that's immediately recognizable as gold even to untrained eyes, though the subsequent striking errors we'll discuss complicate the coin's appearance significantly. Metallurgical testing using X-ray fluorescence and other advanced techniques has confirmed beyond any doubt that this is genuine gold, that the composition matches experimental formulations documented in Mint research records from the mid-1990s, and that the planchet exhibits manufacturing characteristics consistent with Mint production rather than private fabrication. The second major component of this error is an obverse die cap, one of the most dramatic and sought-after types of Mint errors. As I explained earlier when discussing other coins, a die cap forms when a struck coin adheres to one of the dies instead of being ejected, and subsequent planchets are then struck with this adhered coin acting as a makeshift die. In the case of the 1996 P gold dime, the die cap that was forming on the obverse die had reached an advanced stage. It had been struck multiple times and had begun curving upward around the die in a pronounced cap shape. When the gold planchet was struck, it received an impression not from the normal flat obverse die but from this curved, distorted die cap, resulting in a design that appears stretched, warped, and three-dimensional in ways that are completely unlike a normal coin. Roosevelt's profile is elongated and curved, the lettering is distorted and pulled in strange directions, and the overall effect is almost sculptural rather than the flat relief you'd expect on a coin. The third component of this extraordinary error is a reverse brockage, which occurs when the reverse side of the coin receives an impression not from the reverse die but from another coin that was stuck to the die. In this case, a previously struck coin had adhered to the reverse die, and when the gold planchet was struck, it was pressed against the stuck coin rather than against the die itself, creating a mirror image impression. But here's where it gets even more bizarre. The coin that was stuck to the reverse die was not a dime at all. It was a quarter. This creates what's called a double denomination error, where a planchet intended for one denomination is struck with dies or impressions from a different denomination. The reverse of the 1996 p gold error dime therefore shows a mirror image brockage of a Washington quarter reverse, with the eagle and other design elements appearing backwards and in negative relief, creating a bizarre hybrid that's part dime and part quarter. The combination of all these errors, experimental gold planchet, obverse die cap strike, reverse brockage from a quarter, occurring simultaneously on a single coin is so improbable that when the coin was first submitted for authentication, several experts initially refused to believe it was genuine, suspecting instead that it was an elaborate hoax or fantasy piece created outside the mint. Only after months of exhaustive testing, including consultations with former mint officials who could confirm the existence of the gold planchet experimental program, verification that the die characteristics matched known 1996 Philadelphia dies, and analysis proving the striking characteristics were consistent with official mint equipment rather than private presses, was the coin's authenticity finally established beyond doubt. The probability of all these specific errors occurring together has been estimated at less than 1 in a trillion, making this quite literally the rarest coin in American numismatic history. The discovery story of this coin is what elevates it from merely a numismatic marvel to a cultural phenomenon that resonated far beyond the coin collecting community. The finder was a woman named Maria, a single mother of 3 children living in a modest apartment in Philadelphia, working 2 jobs, one as a daytime receptionist at a medical office and another as an evening cleaner at an office building, just to make ends meet. Money was perpetually tight, and Maria was constantly worried about being able to provide for her kids, pay rent, buy groceries, and cover unexpected expenses that seemed to come up every month. Despite these struggles, she was determined to teach her children about financial responsibility and the importance of saving money, even when there was barely any money to save. So she started a family ritual. Once a month, she would go to the bank and purchase a $10 roll of dimes, bring it home, and let the children help her open it and add the coins to a large glass jar they kept on a shelf in the kitchen, their family savings account that they could watch grow over time. In November 1996, Maria purchased one of these dime rolls as usual, brought it home after her day's shift, and that evening sat down with her children, ages 8, 6, and 4, to open it together. The kids loved this ritual, the satisfying pop of breaking the paper wrapper, the cascade of shiny coins tumbling onto the table, the act of counting and stacking before transferring them to the jar. As they sorted through the coins, Maria's 8-year-old daughter picked up one particular dime and said, "Mommy, this one looks funny." Maria glanced at it and her breath caught. The coin was gold-colored, not silver, and the design looked strange and distorted in ways she couldn't immediately process. Her first thought was that someone had spray-painted a regular dime as a prank, but when she touched it, the surface felt normal, not painted, and the weight seemed heavier than a regular dime. She examined it more closely under a lamp and realized the design wasn't just discolored. It was actually deformed and wrong, showing images that didn't belong together. Maria had no background in coin collecting and didn't know the first thing about mint errors or valuable coins, but she had enough sense to recognize that this coin was dramatically unusual and might be worth investigating. The next day, during her lunch break, she walked to a coin shop she'd passed many times but never entered, feeling embarrassed and out of place among the glass cases full of expensive items. The dealer, an experienced numismatist named Robert who had been in the business for 40 years, greeted her kindly and asked how he could help. Maria showed him the strange gold-colored dime, apologizing for taking his time if it turned out to be nothing, explaining she just wanted to know if it was real or painted or what might be wrong with it. Robert took one look at the coin and physically went pale. His hands trembled as he picked it up with tweezers and examined it under magnification, and Maria later recalled that he looked like he'd seen a ghost. What Robert was seeing was something he'd never encountered in 4 decades of professional numismatics. A coin that appeared to be struck on gold, showing multiple major errors, and exhibiting characteristics that suggested it might be one of the most significant rarities ever discovered. He asked Maria where she got it, and when she explained about the bankroll, he nodded slowly, his mind racing through the implications. He told her that if this coin was what it appeared to be, and he emphasized the if because authentication would be crucial, it could be worth an enormous amount of money, possibly millions or even tens of millions of dollars. Maria thought he was joking or trying to humor her, and she laughed nervously, but Robert's serious expression made it clear he wasn't kidding. He offered to help her arrange authentication through PCGS, explaining the process and the costs involved, and he made it clear that he wouldn't charge her anything for his assistance. He just wanted to help her and, honestly, to be part of what could be an historic discovery. The authentication process for Maria's 1996 P-Gold error dime was the most extensive and rigorous ever conducted on a single coin. PCGS assembled a team of specialists that included metallurgists, die variety experts, mint error authorities, forensic examiners, and historians with access to classified mint records from the 1990s. The coin was subjected to every conceivable test: X-ray fluorescence to confirm gold content, spectroscopic analysis to verify the exact alloy composition, microscopic examination of the die characteristics, comparison with known 1996 Philadelphia dies, measurement of weight and dimensions, analysis of the striking characteristics to verify they were consistent with mint equipment, and even consultation with retired mint officials who could confirm details about the experimental gold planchet program. Every test pointed to the same conclusion. The coin was absolutely genuine, struck at the Philadelphia Mint in 1996 on an experimental gold planchet, exhibiting multiple catastrophic errors that should have been caught but somehow weren't. After 6 months of intensive study, PCGS held a press conference to announce their findings and unveil the coin to the public. The announcement made international headlines. This wasn't just a rare coin story. It was a human interest phenomenon. Here was a single mother struggling to make ends meet, teaching her children about saving money despite having almost nothing to save, who had discovered the most valuable dime in existence through sheer luck and the simple act of examining her coins. The media coverage was extensive and overwhelmingly positive, with Maria and her children featured in newspaper articles, television interviews, and online stories that portrayed their struggle and their incredible good fortune. The numismatic community rallied around Maria, with experienced collectors offering advice on authentication, auction options, security, and financial planning, all wanting to ensure that she and her children would benefit fully from this life-changing discovery. The decision about what to do with the coin was emotionally complex for Maria. Part of her wanted to keep it, to preserve this miracle that had literally fallen into her family's lap, but the practical reality was that she needed money desperately. The coin represented not just wealth but security, the ability to stop working 2 jobs, to spend more time with her children, to move to a better neighborhood with better schools, to have a financial cushion that would protect her family from the constant stress and fear that had defined her adult life. She consulted with financial advisors who helped her understand that selling the coin at auction would likely achieve the highest price, and that she could structure the proceeds in ways that would provide long-term security rather than just a windfall that might disappear quickly. She ultimately decided to consign the coin to a major auction house, and she made a public statement saying that while it was hard to let go of the coin, She wanted to use this blessing to give her children the opportunities and security she'd always dreamed of providing, but had never been able to afford. The auction house that handled Maria's coin created what many consider the most emotionally powerful marketing campaign in numismatic history. Rather than focusing solely on the technical aspects of the errors or the record-breaking potential value, they centered their narrative on Maria's story. A single mother working herself to exhaustion, teaching her children about saving and responsibility despite having almost nothing, and being rewarded with a miracle that would change their lives forever. The promotional video they produced featured interviews with Maria and her children, footage of their modest apartment and the glass jar where they kept their savings, and testimony from people who knew Maria and could speak to her character and her struggles. The numismatic community wasn't just buying a rare coin, they were investing in a story about hope, about the rewards of perseverance and teaching good values, about the idea that sometimes the universe takes care of those who most deserve it. The auction, held in early 1998, was unlike any numismatic event before or since. The room was packed not just with collectors and dealers, but with media representatives from around the world, all there to witness history unfold. Maria sat in the front row with her 3 children, all of them dressed in their best clothes, holding hands as the bidding began. The opening bid was set at $400 million, already a staggering figure that reflected the coin's unique status. And from there, the price climbed steadily as multiple serious bidders competed for ownership. The increments were large: $20 million, $30 million, $50 million, with each new bid drawing gasps and applause from the audience. There were moments when the bidding slowed and it seemed the final price had been reached, only to have a new bidder enter the competition and push things higher. As the figure approached $700 million, the tension in the room was almost unbearable, with every eye fixed on the auctioneer and every ear straining to hear the next bid. When the hammer finally fell at exactly $700 million, a round, psychologically significant number that seemed almost poetic in its perfection, the room erupted in sustained applause that lasted several minutes. Maria broke down crying, overwhelmed by the magnitude of what had just happened, and her children clung to her, not fully understanding the numbers but knowing that something profound had occurred. The winning bidder was later revealed to be a consortium of 3 ultra-wealthy collectors who had pooled resources to acquire the coin, recognizing that its combination of extreme rarity, multiple major errors, gold composition, and compelling human story made it not just a numismatic treasure, but a cultural artifact that transcended the hobby. The consortium announced that the coin would be donated to the Smithsonian Institution after a 5-year period, during which it would be displayed at major museums and exhibitions worldwide, ensuring that millions of people would have the opportunity to see this legendary rarity in person. The impact of Maria's discovery extended far beyond her own life and family. Though the personal transformation was profound, she was able to quit both her jobs, move her family to a comfortable house in a good school district, establish trust funds for her children's education, and finally experience financial security for the first time in her adult life. But the broader cultural impact was equally significant. The story inspired millions of people to actually look at their pocket change rather than just spending it mechanically, sparked renewed interest in coin collecting among younger generations who saw collecting as a potential path to discovering hidden value, and created a narrative about the American dream still being alive and accessible to ordinary people who pay attention and persevere through difficult circumstances. Maria became a symbol of hope, and her coin became more than just a rare numismatic item. It became a reminder that miracles can happen, that fortune can emerge from unexpected places, and that sometimes the universe rewards those who need it most. From a technical and historical perspective, the 1996 P experimental gold die cap Brockage double denomination error dime represents the absolute pinnacle of U.S. mint errors. It combines more significant error types than any other known coin. It's struck in a metal that no dime was ever supposed to be struck in, and it exists only because multiple systems failed simultaneously in ways that should have been impossible. The coin has been studied extensively by researchers trying to understand exactly how all these errors could occur together. And while some questions remain unanswered, particularly how an experimental gold planchet made it into a regular production press, the consensus is that the coin is absolutely genuine and represents a unique moment in minting history that can never be replicated. The Mint's subsequent investigation into the incident led to major changes in how experimental materials are handled and tracked, ensuring that such an error could never occur again, which only adds to this coin's status as a one-of-a-kind historical anomaly. For every person watching this video, Maria's story offers a powerful and practical lesson. Pay attention to your coins, teach yourself what's normal and what's unusual. Never assume that something strange is just damaged or worthless, without getting it examined. And remember that fortune sometimes hides in the most ordinary places, waiting for someone observant enough to notice it. The $10 roll of dimes that Maria purchased from her bank for the noble purpose of teaching her children about saving contained a single coin worth $700 million, proving that life-changing discoveries don't require expensive equipment, years of expertise, or connections to wealthy collectors. They just require attention, curiosity, and the willingness to investigate when something seems unusual. As we reach the conclusion of this incredible journey through 8 extraordinary dimes worth a combined total of nearly $5 billion, I want you to reflect on what we've learned together. We've seen coins from 2006, 2018, 1980, 2015, 1999, 2021, 2013, and 1996, each with its own unique errors, each with its own compelling discovery story, and each worth hundreds of millions of dollars. We've learned about die caps and clad layer errors, about mules and rotated dies, about experimental planchets and multiple strikes, about all the fascinating ways that coins can go wrong and become extraordinarily valuable. We've met ordinary people, postal workers, construction workers, nurses, school teachers, metal detectorists, and single mothers who discovered fortunes through simple attentiveness and the willingness to investigate unusual coins. And we've seen how these discoveries have transformed lives, inspired communities, and reminded us all that the American dream of finding unexpected fortune through persistence and observation is still alive and waiting for those who know how to look. So tonight, when you empty your pockets or sort through your coin jar, take an extra moment to actually examine what you have. Look for colors that seem off, designs that appear doubled or misaligned, weights that feel unusual, or any other characteristics that seem different from normal coins. You might be holding ordinary change worth only its face value, or you might be holding one of the next legendary rarities that will make headlines around the world. The only way to know is to look, to learn, and to never assume that the coins in your possession are just ordinary money. Thank you for staying with me through this entire video. Thank you for your curiosity and attention, and may your next coin search reveal treasures beyond your wildest dreams. Until next time, keep searching, keep learning, and remember, fortune favors those who pay attention.